President Obama and Republican Governor Bob Riley have come out in favor of charter schools. Do you favor charter schools, and why or why not?
Congressman?
First of all, charter schools are a symptom of a failing public school system. 4 out of 10 children fail to graduate from high school in Alabama. Our reading scores in many of our schools at the 3rd grade level are dismal, and any child not reading at grade level in the 3rd grade is destined for the educational intensive care unit and will probably. So not only am I for charter schools specifically, but I am for anything, whether it's breaking down the bureaucratic layering of our educational system so that we're beginning to think outside the box. I'm also very, very pro homeschool, charter school, private schools, anything that allows America to compete internationally. A 5th grade child in Madison, Alabama is competing with a 5th grader in Singapore, Hong Kong, Munich, Paris. We've got to understand that we are now on an international stage, that information, knowledge, and the ability to become a flexible individual in this market requires a really good education. We're no longer competing with Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, Ohio, Indiana as far as our jobs are concerned. Our children we're educating today are going to have to compete worldwide. We can no longer think about this educational system as something that a little board of people in Alabama, the state school board, which has presided over a failing system year after year after year and are allowed to grade their own paper and tell us that they're doing well, and we can see that our children are not, then whether it's a charter school, a private school, or a home school, parents are going to go wherever they can get the best education for their children.
So do you think, therefore, that education will forever be a federal issue and is no longer a state or local issue?
What I think is happening, what I really think is happening is that those families who can afford to exit a bad school are exiting that school. Almost 20% of eligible school children in Madison County don't go to public schools. So what we're seeing is a polarizing of the educational system. We're seeing those mothers taking second jobs to make sure their children get a good education. The community is abandoning the confidence that they've had in public education, whether it be federal dominated or state dominated. They're saying, we don't believe any of you. We're not going to trust you with our children any longer. We've got churches in this community that are developing K through 8 certified teaching, doing a great job. We've got churches, high schools. What's happening is a lack of confidence in what the government is telling us, whether it be a state government or a federal government. And those who can are exiting the system.
Well, it seems to me that we have some pretty good schools in Madison County in particular, and then there's some other good schools in the area. And do you think those are being abandoned also, or are you saying there are no good schools?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm saying if a mother or dad are in a system that's not educating their children properly, they're going to exit that system. If they're in a school, you can pull the reading scores up on every school in Madison County, every school in the 5th district. We've got a school in Scottsboro that's the top 5 reading scores. It's K through 4, the Newton School. We've got great schools here. But when you ask me about charter schools, shouldn't our mothers and dads have an option? Or should they watch their children get up and get dressed, brush their teeth, head out to school knowing it's a failing school and be helpless to do anything else about it? I say no. I say the mothers and dads are going to vote with their feet, their pocketbook. The mother's going to take a second job, and the churches are now moving into that area because of the failure of the system. The bureaucratic system has failed to be flexible enough to educate the children. We've got areas in Madison County, we've got areas in every county that I'm responsible for, where we've got great schools, and then we've got schools that are not great. And so I think an option for a mother or dad, I don't think we ought to take anything off the table. I think the
Charter
children are too
school
important.
question from
Do you remember the question?
Sure. Let me give some background. I attended 4 different public schools in the Tennessee Valley, ended up graduating from Grissom High School. My mother taught for 25 years at Lee High School. She taught government economics. She retired from Lee High School. My wife is a Whitesburg Middle School teacher now, teaching math. My 2 daughters have both majored in elementary education, so I do have some feel for the discussions that are going on in the public school system. My oldest daughter, Rachel, taught in public schools for a while and then taught in a charter school in downtown Los Angeles, which is one of the more challenging educational environments I think you can come across. And having said all that, and before I get into the direct question of charter schools, let me add that I don't think that the federal government has any role in mandating anything to states and local governments in K through 12. The federal government has national defense to be concerned with. It has its interstate highway system to be concerned with. It's got our federal judicial system to be concerned with. It's got Social Security to be concerned with. It does not need to be devoting its time and resources to K through 12. That has traditionally been a local function of government, not a national function of government. And so with the backdrop that I don't believe the federal government should be involved in this issue, let me give you my personal opinion about charter schools, and I'm going to lump it in with a bunch of different other options too. I'm a firm believer that if there are ways that we can educate our children that are better or cheaper, we ought to do it as parents and we ought to do it as taxpayers. And from my daughter's experience in downtown Los Angeles, she's a firm believer in charter schools. When you've got schools that are failing, and unfortunately some of our public schools are failing, well then we should give parents as many different options as we can give them. Parker Griffith mentioned some of these, and I concur. We've got vouchers, we've got private schools, we've got homeschooling. We should also add charter schools to that list. And I'm in favor of, at the K through 12 state and local level, parents having all those options. But again, as a congressman, I would not dictate to state and local governments how they should educate our children at the local level. That is uniquely a function of local boards of education, where parents have quick access. If there's something wrong with their school, they can go to the principal, they can go to the superintendent, they can go to their local board of education members and have those kind of discussions. They can't go to Washington, D.C. and have that kind of discussion with a U.S. Senator or a U.S. Congressman very easily. And so I want to keep local control, and that would be my focus as a U.S. Congressman.